Hey, welcome to the Go-To Physio podcast. My name is Dave O'Sullivan, and in season 4, it's all about building a go-to clinic that gives you happy patients, happy staff, high profits, and the freedom as a proud go-to clinic owner. My aim is to share my mistakes and my successes over the last 15 years working in professional sport and private practice, and ultimately building a go-to clinic that's given me the freedom to travel all around the world. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, welcome to the Go-To Physio podcast. We're in season 4, which is all about building a go-to clinic that gives you happy patients, high profits, happy staff, and ultimately the freedom, whether that's personal freedom or financial freedom. And that ties in nicely to today's episode, which is episode number 3. And we're talking all about the 2 most important numbers clinic owners need to know in order to actually gain true freedom. And as always, I'm joined by our head business coach in the Go-To Clinic Mastermind program, Paddy Mulligan. Paddy, thank you as always for joining me.
Cheers, Dave. Looking forward to it. I think this is something that we don't talk about enough. And I think it'll give people a bit of clarity on some of the financial bits and things that as clinic owners we need to be able to chat about to other clinic owners and have a clear definition of what are the numbers that we're working towards.
Absolutely, Paddy. And, when I decided that season 4 was all going to be about mapping my journey and moving the clinic and into this premises here, and I was going to build this season's episodes all around that, how to build a go-to clinic, I bet the majority of people were thought I'd be talking about getting new patients in, head physio systems, clinical systems, all of those things. And they're all really important, and we will be covering those in the coming episodes. But actually, the first 2 episodes have all been about you as the clinic owner getting super clear on what you actually want in life. And the rule from episode 2 was the business, your clinic, is the vehicle that produces that feeling of success that you have on a daily basis. So now we're going to transition into more of the financials. And there's a reason why we do the financials first in our Go-To Clinic Mastermind program, because if we don't have that set up for success, then it's going to be very, very hard to gain true freedom. And the 2 most important numbers that we need to know in order to gain true freedom are going to be incredibly important in terms of giving us focus and helping us make better quality decisions. So the first number that you need to know in order to gain true freedom is what we would call your money now number. Okay, so this is the number in this moment in time, this year. What do you need to earn to live comfortably and achieve your definition of success in this moment of time? Okay, so I'm not talking about the number where you cut your Netflix subscriptions and you're living on rations and tin of beans. I'm talking about what is the amount of money that you need to earn each month, comfortably live and enjoy your life. Okay. Now, we're not talking about maybe a stretch goal where you're out on private jets and yachts and Vegas every week and living the high life. We're talking about your normal day-to-day life. Okay, so this number now is pretty much the amount of money that's going to cover your mortgage, your living expenses, your bills, and your social expenses, as well as maybe anything else for your.
How we explain in the mastermind is that we think of money now as how can you live a comfortable life and provide for yourself and provide the money that you need to your family. So that it's the feeling of not being stressed. You're not trying to create a huge amount of money with this money now number, but you have enough money to get by day to day, to serve the things that you want. There's the primal thing. We talk about the emotion of the provision, the providing for your family, providing for yourself and your family. So it's enough to make you guys comfortable. And it's also starting to make us think about, I'm going to move on to that, is can the business provide this for you? And are you in a position at the moment to take that from the business? Because we talked about it before. Too often when we do our little audits at the start, we go, how much are you actually taking from this business? And it's often far, far lower than you'd expect or actually need to take to provide a good quality of life for you and your family.
Yes, and that's a really important point there is if we look at last week's episode, we talked about your definition of success and the business being the vehicle that produces that feeling of success. So whatever way you want to feel on a daily basis, you don't want to feel stressed, you don't want to feel worried about money and constantly looking over your shoulders. I presume nobody's put those feelings as their definition of success. So whatever your definition of success and how you want to feel on a daily basis, we now need to establish how much money do you need to earn each month in order to be able to do that. Okay. And I would respectfully suggest that if you're not earning that at the moment, okay, and your staff are earning more than you and bits and pieces, then there's big things that we need to change, because you as the clinic owner are taking all the risk in the business, okay. And I think the other issue is with social media these days is that there's this hustle culture, okay, where it's like you have to work, blah blah blah, and I think hard work is really important, but at the same time we need to work smarter, not harder. Okay, so a lot of people, it's small hinges that are going to swing big doors with this. So the first thing we need to understand is how much do you need to earn on a monthly basis or a yearly basis, better still, so that you can achieve your definition of success, or live a comfortable life. Okay, because you only get one life and you need to start living your definition of success today. Once we understand that number, as Paddy kind of gave you a preview there, we need to now establish, is the business actually producing this number for us? Or better said, at the start of the year, when we have our budget for the year, when all is said and done, and if we keep doing what we're currently doing and the business produces this result at the end of the year, will it have achieved my money now number? And that's one of the first things we look at, is if a clinic owner is not set to achieve their money now number at the end of the year, then that should be sirens. I'm on a main road here now, so you'll hear plenty of sirens probably in the background. That should be sirens saying that there's something fundamentally wrong within the business. Okay, Paddy, any thoughts of that? And again, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, or feel free to disagree.
It's just that's not okay as regards if every year you're at the end of the year you're looking at the accounts going, oh, I didn't get what I wanted from it, so I had to scrimp and save here and there. That's not okay. Something has to change, because you can't keep doing, definition of insanity or madness is doing the same thing again, again, and again. So you need to challenge yourself to get clear on what you need, and from a basic life point of view. I think that's really important, and that's what we're going to delve into now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think just in regards to that as well, there's nothing worse, and I've had this myself, where the accountant gives you your accounts for the year and it goes, here's all the money you made, and you're like, that's great, but where is all that money? Oh, you've spent it. So that's where as well we need to speak the language of business, which is accounting, which we're going to do a whole episode on in a bit. But that first number, the money now, it really highlights the importance of a budget. Now, budgets, that you can have some criticism for them and stuff like that, but the budget is a line of sight that, if, as you said there, Paddy, if I keep doing what I've always done, what am I going to make at the end of the year? Okay. And it's such a powerful thing to have, where at the start of the year, and again, our goal this year in our Go to Clinic Mastermind is I want everybody's budget signed off, approved by December, okay, by early December, so that they're going into January and they know exactly what they need to do in order to hit not only the money now number, but are they on track for the next number, which is your financial freedom number. Okay, so the number one is your what do I need to earn now, but then number two that I need to understand if I want true freedom is what's my financial freedom number. So Paddy, do you want to go through what the financial freedom number is quickly?
Yeah, so the terms number. So that's kind of what we're looking at there is, if you have the plan to retire at a certain age, so we say, okay, I want to retire at 55. I want to live in, somebody actually, what I'm saying, came into the mastermind recently, who wants to buy a beach house in Australia. I think it's 2.1 million or something like that. That's an extreme version, but it's thinking about maybe your children's wedding. You want to upgrade your house. These are the bigger things that you want to achieve over the next few years, and ultimately the money that you want to have reoccurring from your business year on year. So it's where we are now and what the money that you need now. Let's say that's 50,000 a year. But let's say our big stretch goal and the terms number, the money that we want to generate every year from the business that will allow us to buy that car, provide for our children and their wedding, is 150,000 a year. And there's a big gap there. But then we can go, okay, there's a line in the sand. And we can have a discussion then around what are the actions I need to take to move me towards that goal.
Absolutely. And where that becomes really important then, especially if your clinic is profitable, is we can start to actually come up with a plan. So at the start of the year, we're going to have a budget. If we keep doing everything that we're currently doing and we put on 10% growth factor or whatever, because we need to at least beat inflation, otherwise we're dying, we're not actually growing. Okay, so we need to at least beat inflation in terms of our growth of our business. At the end of the year, I'll have a document and I'll know exactly if we keep doing what we're doing, okay, based on historical data, Steve's law, based on what we've done the last few years, plus 10% growth or however aggressive we want to be, this is how much profit we're going to make at the end of the year. Okay. Plus, I'll also know my money now number is covered, but also the pot of money that I'll have left over. Now, this is where it gets really important with your financial freedom number, is having that information now allows us to make better quality decisions. Because I might have profit, for example, of let's say 40,000 at the end of the year. Okay. Then I'm going to have to pay the tax man 20 odd percent corporation tax on that. Okay. Or I can take some of that profit and I can put it into my pension, okay, from an employer's contribution, which will reduce my tax bill massively, but it's building up my financial freedom pot, okay? And then that pot is continuing to build towards my financial freedom number when I retire, okay? So that's just one example. Now, there's pros and cons to doing that. And this podcast isn't about whether you should put it into pensions, okay? I invest some of my company's profits into the stock market, okay, and I actually invest them through the holdings company, okay. So there's plenty of ways that we can do that, but the key thing that I want you to understand here is that we know what we're going to earn at the end of the year if we keep doing the same things. For some people, they're not going to like that and they're going to have to change what they're doing, which is what you just said there, Paddy. The insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But let's say, for example, you have a budget and it's actually good, it's profitable. You're hitting your money now number, which should be non-negotiable in my eyes. And then number two is you've got profit left over. That allows us now to plan on where to put that money. So some people, if you want to buy a building like I have, you might put that into a SIP where then you can borrow against that or something like that. But it just allows you to start thinking about these things and how to best use the profits to get also in line with your financial freedom number.
It helps with our strategic decision. That's something we do in step 3, where it's going, okay, I want to make more money in my business. I'll just hire another physio. And that's what most of us do. I'll just hire another therapist and that'll be great and I'll bring in more money. And 6 months later, we realize I'm actually not making more money here. Okay, so what do we need? So the new therapist would need to see this many people. The new therapist will cost me this much money. Okay, and then we can set some clear boundaries of what success is. So we've got some clear numbers to give to the team, some clear numbers to give to the therapist, and clear targets to say, well, that's what success is, and that will allow me to hit my number. I hope that makes sense, but it's making strategic decisions based on, okay, rather than just, oh, I need to hire somebody else. Well, often when we look at it, we actually look at the utilization of the current team, and there's often a little bit more, or quite a bit more in some cases, that can be taken from the current team. So when we actually study it, we see that the therapists seem to be super busy, but the utilization might only be 60%. If we set a standard of 80%, that's a 20% uplift in the business, and that could be 10, 15, 20,000 extra within your business. So often we slow down to speed up. So actually, rather than bringing that new therapist and bringing that new hire, we say, oh, hang on, if we get the team better, if we improve their skills with the mentorship principles, if we increase the PVA, we can actually improve just within the current team setup. And that will give me more profit, which is oxygen, allow me to make different decisions.
Absolutely. I think that's incredibly important that when we hire, and we're going slightly off on a tangent, that it's not just a case of hiring another therapist and paying, let's say, for example, two grand, 2.5 grand, 3 grand salary per month, plus the national insurance, pension contributions, and all these things. But actually, the big thing, and this is probably ties us in nicely to lead us into the next episode about the importance of understanding our financials. The most important thing we need to look at is our gross profit percentage. So if we're assuming our therapists are variable costs and that they go above the line, which again we'll talk about in a different podcast episode. But what you can start to see then is what that does to your gross profit. Your gross profit is the first sign of an alarm that there's an issue in the business. So in order to get our gross profit at an acceptable level where it's maintaining after hiring a therapist, they have to generate a lot more revenue than just what we're paying them essentially. And I think when you start to look at your gross profit and you look at actually how much revenue I have to earn in order to just to maintain my gross profit currently before I hire a neurotherapist, I think you'll be surprised, or certainly I was very surprised.
I think Dave, there's a good chance that people listening, there's a high percentage of people will be like, what is that? And what are these guys talking about? So we know that was the case when we introduced it this year in the Mastermind, but I know any of our current Mastermind members who are listening will be able to go, well, I know what that means. I know the impact of that. So it's just a number that at the moment might seem like, well, I've heard of it. I'm not sure how it impacts my business, but having the knowledge and being able to look at a sheet and within 10 seconds look at that, you can pick up on trends in the business and go, okay, I'm in a position to make a decision here, or I'm not in it. And it's a totally different language, but it's a little quick win. We'll call it like the equivalent of a fast start technique with hip or back. It's a quick thing you look at and you go, okay, make a decision on this business. So there's lots of other things we have to take into account, like you would with a patient, but it's a quick win that will allow us to make better decisions.
That's essentially not having that is what the majority of therapists are doing. And again, I'm not judging because I've made it myself. We get a feeling we've got a few weeks where we're busy and we go, geez, I need another therapist, and we hire another therapist. And that a lot of those actions, because we're making them on emotions and feelings rather than logic. We talked a lot about definition of success, wanting to feel good, but we actually have to make decisions based on logic.
It's a great point, but even if we let's say we're talking about our terms number, let's say we're going to try and achieve our terms in a year, which often is not realistic, could be 2 or 3 years. But for example, for us, we were able to say from January, right, May is when we're going to hire. We're going to hire in May because if we hit our targets, we'll be this busy. All the therapists will be this busy, and it'll mean that we will need the right person to come in. So what it means is we start advertising in February. We create a shortlist, we slow down the process. Maybe we don't have lots of good applicants, but it gives us time to breathe rather than that reactive, like you said, I'm super busy, I need to get somebody in. Jesus, they're great, they're a unicorn, I can't believe I found them. And then 3 months later you realize, well, actually, there's a reason why they bounced around from Connect. So there's a reason why they were available to work at this time. So I think that's the benefits of having that bigger number and working towards it. It gives us the opportunity to plan, but to make decisions and make better decisions because we slow down to speed up, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's where the importance of the budget is critical. And how does this tie into this episode? All of these wrong decisions, okay, are not necessarily, well, probably is wrong, maybe a strong word, okay, or maybe suboptimal decisions where we make reactive decisions that can eat away at your money now number, but also your financial freedom number, which is why a lot of clinicians are in the scenarios that we described at the start of the show, which is they're highly stressed, they're working a lot of hours, they're not getting a lot of money to show for taking all the risk, and their staff are probably getting paid more than them. And that's where we really need to make decisions with numbers. We understand exactly where the business is, what's in the budget for the next few months. Have we got the energy and resources there to actually achieve the volume of patients that we need to see? And as you said there, when are we actually going to need to hire? Because the utilization then is going to massively change. So there's the utilization percentage is going to be a big one that we're going to have to take into consideration also, but also seasonality. Okay, because we know in our clinic, certainly in the UK and Ireland, December can always be a little bit of a hit and miss month, especially with a week closed over Christmas. So your revenue is going to drop massively there. January for some clinics can be a little bit tight as well. So there's a lot of factors to consider. But if you have a clear roadmap and you have a financial budget and a forecast, you know your seasonality, and you have all of those things in place, it just allows you to make better quality decisions, which protects your money now number. And it also shows you the impact it's going to have on your financial freedom number. And as I said, a lot of the decisions we're making, they're taking us away from those two numbers, which is why I think a lot of clinic owners are finding themselves in these positions.
And I think it's a rabbit hole we can go down. There's so many good decisions that we've made. But just a thought that came to mind is if the people are listening, they were listening to the previous episode, that A4 page that they use, they might flip it over and they might just put two columns, and the left is money now. Open up your phone, open up your app, your banking app, and literally just look at, okay, monthly, what are the costs that I have? Okay. That, with a little bit of a small percentage on top, is your money now, if we keep it really simple. If we were to take that and add on the extra of here's the things I'd like to be able to achieve, that's our terms number. So on the left, you put down, okay, rents, costs of running the house, car, etc., etc. They're our money now, and our terms number is those plus a little bit of extra stuff on top. For people who are maybe really new to this and really want to keep it simple, it's a really crude way of starting that process.
Absolutely. And just with the terms number as well, just add, you want to be thinking about some contribution towards a pension or something like that. Or if you don't want to have a pension and your business is your pension, which you're planning on selling to essentially retire with, we've seen it ourselves, Paddy, with a few people where you go to sell your business and it's not set up properly and the value of your business is very, very different.
I think we need to do an episode about that, because I think one of my biggest frustrations is I get contacted by so many people who say, look, I'm at a stage now where I've worked for 20, 30 years, I want to sell my business. And within 5 minutes, I can look at it and say, well, it's worth literally, apart from goodwill, which is, nominal, it's actually worth nothing. So a lot of people, we think we have that, I want to sell it at the end, but if we're not setting it up for that, then we will not have that option.
Yeah, so I think that's really important as well. Otherwise, you need to look at, okay, what's the pot of money I need in my pension pot so that I can maintain my current lifestyle when I retire, when all is said and done. Okay, so that we need to take that into consideration into your financial freedom number also. So practicalities for this episode, get that piece of paper out, as Paddy said, write down, understand what's your money now number. Okay. For a lot of people, you're probably, if you are feeling like you're stopping yourself from living your definition of success, then I think there always needs to be a third column. With the first column is what you're taking out of the business now. The next column must be, actually, if I'm living my definition of success now and I'm not going crazy, I'm just having a comfortable life, how much money do I need? Because that's the first milestone that we need to get your business to. And then the last number then is actually, what's my financial freedom number? That what's the pot of money that I need when I retire at 60, 65, 55, whatever you want to retire at, okay? And for a lot of us, it's going to scare you, but it's going to be over £1 million. You need £1 million pot to be able to draw out of to be comfortable when you retire, whether you like it or not. So how many years have I got till I retire? And then how much do I need to be putting into that? Obviously, you'll have compound interest and other bits as well, which is probably a bit beyond the scope of this, okay? But we need to start thinking about these things. What's the actual numbers? Because if we have the target on the wall now, we're going to set the subconscious mind to it. We can actually start to work towards it. And every decision we can make now can start to get closer. Are we getting closer? Are we getting further away from those? And hiring somebody too fast is one of the things. And I'll put my hands up. I was very top heavy with admin as well. Okay, where I've had loads of admin staff in my business. We were inefficient in terms of the ability to turn all of my staff into revenue, into profits, into cash. We were a little bit inefficient there. And again, that was draining my money now number and my financial freedom number as well. So all of these things about when to hire staff as well, we need to look at what it's doing to those numbers as well, and if it's going to speed it up or significantly slow it down.
I think that's it. I think let's start with the basics, like with anything. A lot of healthcare practitioners, physios are not doing this. It's not even on our radar. So let's take the first step. And do this, and obviously that might spark a thirst for more knowledge. And again, we talk about, that's why we've gone with the financial stuff at the start of this series, because it's so important. It's not something we want to talk about, but it's super, super, super important for you achieving that success.
Absolutely. And in the next episode, Paddy, we're going to come to the final episode where we're going to talk a lot around finance. And we're going to talk about the language of business, which is accounting essentially. So we're going to introduce some key terms to clinicians that we need to understand as well there, that you and I both spent a lot of money, time, effort, energy trying to develop these skills. But again, I hope you can start to see the team here before we even get into all the sexy stuff like getting new patients, packages of care, head physio systems, patient visit averages, all of those things. Unless we have this stuff right, it's going to be very, very hard, because the quality of our decisions, unless we're clear on the numbers, clear on the end goal, we're making decisions in the dark, so to speak.
We have done it the inverse. We've done it the way most people do it, which is marketing, getting new patients in, all that kind of stuff. And it was okay, wasn't it? There were a lot of challenges, a lot of frustrations that, as you say, it was exciting at the start, but then there's a delay in the challenges. Whereas if you do it this way, we flip it around, it creates more stability, creates less overwhelm for you, gives you a clear roadmap, and you can really pick up early if you're on or off track. That's the key, and that feeds into the emotion of feeling control, feeling energized. That's the stuff that I want. That's the stuff that most clinical owners will want, I think.
Yeah, I think the biggest feeling that it gave me was feeling of being in control. Like I was in control of my business. Even when I was across the other side of the world, at World Cups and stuff like that, I felt in control of my business. I knew the numbers, it was growing. I knew where it was. And that helped me then into my definition of success, which is feeling equanimity, energy, joy, love. It helped all of those things. So thank you very much, Paddy. Great episode again. Next episode is the last financial one. Then we're getting into all of the other stuff. But as I said, you need these basics in place if you really want to set yourself up for success, to have freedom. Because if you don't know your numbers, your money now number and your financial freedom number, then we don't know the gaps. Okay. And making decisions and continuing to do the same things over and over again, the definition is insanity if you're expecting a different result. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this show. As always, thank you very much, Paddy, for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode, where it's a bit of a juicy one, the language of business.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you'd like a free copy of my Head Physio Systems 6-step checklist that I use to personally audit my own therapists to make sure that they can keep patients progressing even when the pain is eased, so that we can ethically increase our patient numbers, our revenues and referrals, head over to www.thegotophysio.com/checklist and I'll get that sent straight over to you. That's it for this week. I'll see you in next week's show.